Today's show is brought to you by 20th Century Studios' The New Mutants, available now on digital Blu-ray and 4K Ultra HD. Here's how The Mandalorian could connect to the Star Wars sequel trilogy. With its Monster of the Week storytelling, largely unknown worlds among the Outer Rim, and serotonin-boosting doses of adorable Baby Yoda antics, The Mandalorian is a hit among Star Wars fans, both diehard and casual. And that may be due to the fact that The Mandalorian feels disconnected from the overarching Skywalker Saga. I mean, look, yes, it's part of the same canonical universe, but it does feel like it's largely off in its own corner of the galaxy far, far away. However, according to a new theory, that might not be the case for much longer. Much like how Rogue One teed up the events of the original trilogy, The Mandalorian could lead directly into the events of the divisive Star Wars sequel trilogy. And if we're right about this, well, that could be considered a spoiler. So, if you're worried about that kind of thing, why not make yourself a nice bowl of soup in the meantime? Nothing shocking or surprising about soup, right?
Don't play with your food.
Alright, are all the spoiler phobes gone? Great, let's get into it, shall we? According to Nerdist staff writer Eric Diaz in a new theory, The Mandalorian could answer some of our biggest questions about the Star Wars sequel trilogy while paying off existing storylines about Din Djarin trying to keep the child safe from Moff Gideon and the Imperial Remnant. Now, this is all speculation for the time being, but these clues lay out a compelling argument. I'll link to this article in the comments below as well if you prefer to read this sort of thing for yourself. So, The Mandalorian takes place 5 years after the events of Return of the Jedi. That places it roughly 25 years before the events of The Force Awakens. As we learn in Claudia Gray's canon novel Star Wars Bloodlines, the First Order emerges approximately 6 years before the events of The Force Awakens, so that gives us about 20 years, 2 decades of time between the events of The Mandalorian and the rise of the First Order. Now, this is important because, as The Mandalorian's creators have made pretty clear, this show will explore how the First Order emerged from the ashes of the Empire, in addition to showing an adorable child committing countless acts of frog genocide. Now, speaking with Entertainment Weekly, co-executive producer Dave Filoni said, "This doesn't turn into a good guy universe because you blew up 2 Death Stars." The Mandalorian creator Jon Favreau added, "What could happen in the 30 years between celebrating the defeat of the Empire and then the First Order? You come in on Episode 7, the First Order are not just starting out, they're pretty far along." As we've seen in The Mandalorian thus far, the Imperial Remnant still have a small but die-hard following, and they're trying to arm up, buying black market weapons wherever they can find them. With a leader like Moff Gideon wielding the Darksaber to rally them, they have no qualms about employing kamikaze-like tactics in pursuit of their goals. After all, as Werner Herzog's character put it in Season 1,
"I would like to see the baby."
No, not that quote, I'm talking about the other one. The other one.
"The Empire improves every system it touches."
Yes, that quote. Anyway, these fascist loons believe wholeheartedly in what they're doing, and as we all know, power abhors a vacuum. But what if Moff Gideon isn't just this fanatical space fascist who got lost in the sauce? What if he's actually acting on orders from Emperor Palpatine? Because as we all know, Sheev didn't shuffle off this mortal coil after getting shafted by his Sith sidekick, Darth Vader. Moff Gideon is fixated on tracking down the child, and not just because he's cute as a button, but because the theory states that the wee baby Yoda is one of the few Force-sensitive children left in the galaxy far, far away. Baby Yoda was born 50 years ago. That puts him around 20 years before the events of Revenge of the Sith and Order 66, which led to the mass executions of Jedi all across the universe. But in order to complete his final orders, Gideon needs a Force-sensitive child. Why, you ask? To serve as a conduit to help create the vessel that'll let Palpatine's loyalists in the unknown regions resurrect their dear departed dictator. As we saw in The Rise of Skywalker, old Sheev has enough helpers to fill up stadium seating on Exegol. And to paraphrase another of the Mandalorian star Carl Weathers' lines from Arrested Development, "There's plenty of meat on that Baby Yoda. You take that home, throw it in a pot, add some broth, a Palpatine, baby, you got a Snoke growing."
Yes, that's fine, but I would like to focus on my acting.
And while we know little of Supreme Leader Snoke, we do know that he's a genetic construct or a strand cast, if you nasty. During the Rise of Skywalker, we see that Palpatine is a big fan of the Prestige, with several Snoke bodies just hanging out floating in vats. Whether these are backup bodies, failed clones, we don't know, but this bioengineered bad boy is clearly some sort of Frankenstein's monster stitched together from DNA from all manner of life forms. And according to our theory, one of the most important strands of said DNA belongs to the child. So Moff Gideon probably realizes that for the Empire to truly rise again, it needs a powerful leader that can tap into the dark side of the Force to inspire both fear and loyalty in their followers. The resurrected Palpatine is a shell of his former self, looking somewhere between the Emperor of Mankind from Warhammer 40k and Dumbledore's Lich Hand from the Deathly Hallows on the healthiness scale. Presuming that these clone bodies are following a similar process to what we saw in the old Dark Empire comics of the 1990s, they aren't stable enough to contain all the dark side energy flowing into them. That's why Mecha Palpatine needs machines to keep him alive. Until he can walk on his own two evil feet, he'll need a malevolent meat puppet to control in his stead, and hence we get Supreme Leader Snoke. According to the theory, at some point Moff Gideon will get his Gideons on the wee baby Yoda. Although the Mando will ultimately rescue the child, Gideon will have the baby long enough to extract the DNA he needs to help the First Order manufacture their horrifying new leader. It's the kind of ending that mixes hope for the future with a healthy dose of dread and impending doom that Star Wars just loves to give us. How like life. But the sequel trilogy connections don't stop there. Eric takes things one step further by positing that what if the person who ultimately ferries a young Rey to the far-flung safety of Jakku is none other than Din Djarin. As we learned in The Rise of Skywalker, one of Rey's parents was Palpatine's son or failed clone. They managed to escape Sheev's clutches and stash their daughter, Palpatine's granddaughter, on the desert planet of Jakku. It can make for a fascinating bookend to this series. It begins with Din Djarin helping one Force-sensitive child get to safety, and ends with him helping another do the same. Both of these children will have major ramifications on the galaxy far, far away and its future. Then again, who knows what exactly will come to pass? We have other theories about how the Mandalorian is going to set up our surly hero to help Bo-Katan Kryze reunite the Mandalorian people and retake their ancestral homeworld, but in the meantime, we'll at least have the lone wolf and cub action of Din Djarin and the wee baby Yoda kicking butt, glurping frogs, and showing us what is and isn't the way. But as we've come to learn over the past 4 decades of Star Wars storytelling and the Force itself, everything is connected. Today's show is sponsored by The New Mutants, now on digital, Blu-ray, and 4K Ultra HD. Based on the Marvel Comics series created by Chris Claremont and illustrated by Bill Sienkiewicz, The New Mutants stars Maisie Williams, Anya Taylor-Joy, Blue Hunt, Charlie Heaton, Alice Braga, and Henry Zaga. The release includes behind-the-scenes featurettes, deleted scenes, and audio commentary between legendary artist Bill Sienkiewicz and director Josh Boone. The New Mutants tells the thrilling story of 5 teenagers with incredible mutant powers brought together at a hospital under mysterious circumstances. Together, they must rely on each other to confront their inner demons and a sinister force bent on their destruction. Can they escape with their lives intact? To find out, add The New Mutants to your X-Men collection now on digital, Blu-ray, and 4K Ultra HD. And in the meantime, folks, tell me, what do you think of this theory? What do you think will happen in The Mandalorian Season 3 and beyond? Let's discuss in the comments below, and for the latest and greatest in the world of pop culture, make sure you stay tuned to Nerdist.com.